Okay, hello and welcome everyone into today's video. Today we are talking about the code editor and the AI assistant inside 5. Now before I get started, let me point out that this feature is only available in the cloud hosted version, that is the paid version of 5. Now without further ado, let me get started. Okay, so today, as I said, we're talking about the code editor, the ability to write functions inside 5. So if you click on logic and then code editor, okay, so let me start by opening a function. So I can click on this button here which says open existing function. Now I'm already running an app which has a ton of functions inside it. So if I click here, over here on the lookup, so I have a list of JavaScript functions over here and some TypeScript functions as well. Let me open the first one, which is booking to create. And as you can see, this looks a little familiar. The 5 opens up an entire code editor in your screen. Okay, so what we are doing in this function is that we are just doing a very simple IP lookup from this API. And once we get their IP and from the response, we just fill in that which city the user is from. Now, of course, let's see if you don't have someone like me present here to actually explain the entire code to you. What you can do is that you can hover over here on this button that says explain code and click on that. And now 5 uses OpenAI to actually read and interpret your code, and it will explain the entire code to you. Now, as you can see, 5 defines your entire code right over here, which includes what kind of parameters were passed inside it, what are we doing with the HTTP GET method, and what are we doing with the API, and what we are doing with the return statement as well. Okay, now let me give you a different use case. Let's say that we have a bigger function. For example, this one, where we are doing a lot of stuff. For example, we are calling this SQL query. We are putting all of the details that we got from the query into the variable, and then we are for example, we are calling this query over here, and then we are getting details from the application and putting them into the variable, and then we are populating our table by calling this query. Now, let's say that inside this function, you want 5 to explain a particular section of the code and not the entire function. So what you can do is you can highlight this piece of code, for example, this one, and then ask 5 to explain it. Then 5 will only read the section of your code that you have highlighted, and it will only explain that the code is inserting a new record into a table called as customers, and the SQL query is defined as string, and etc, etc, etc. So you can do that as well. Now let's say that inside your code you have an error. For example, let's say if we get rid of this bracket, and now if we try to save the code, 5 will give us an error. Of course, you can click on show more to get a detailed technical error, but what you can also do is you can click on this button which says check for errors. Now, rather than actually explaining the code, 5 will now look for errors in your code. And there you go. It says there is one error in the code. The closing parenthesis for the if statement, which is this one, is missing. Now let's do that. And let's try to save it. And now we're all good. Okay, so now the last thing that I would like to highlight over here is basically how to set up your AI assistant inside 5. Now that can be done by clicking on applications in the 5 demo version, basically clicking on applications here on top. And now you have this button here called as configuration. Inside configuration, click on your interface. If you don't have, you can create one. And then if you click here, then over here in this dialog box, what you want to do is in the key value, you want to pass in OpenAI/key. And in the value, you need to just paste in your own API key. And then through that, 5 will refer to your own API key, and then you will be able to use the AI assistant inside 5. Okay, so that's it for today's video. If you like today's content, make sure to like and subscribe. Until then, thank you all very much and see you all very, very soon.